Hey there, welcome to another video with Chris Risley about our Writing 121 class. You've just read and answered some questions about an essay called Pit Bulls, Both Sides of the Fence. This video is designed to show you how that student writing sample of an informative essay will connect to the writing guidelines that you are about to see in just a few moments later in this course. So that's the essay that we're working on in this unit. It's the informative essay, and the purpose of the informative essay is to inform your readers about what experts are saying regarding a controversial topic. Now, one of the biggest challenges that students have with a paper like this is learning to narrow down a conversation. So, for instance, let's use Pit Bulls, Both Sides of the Fence. Perhaps a new student writing such a paper, they went, I want to write about dog attacks. Well, that's too broad a topic. So the student that whose paper you read, Pit Bulls, Both Sides of the Fence, they narrowed it down. They narrowed it down to a specific dog. So they narrowed it down to pit bulls. And from there, they narrowed that topic down to just informing people about not how to deal with pit bull attacks, whether it's better to run or stand your ground, or, there are a number of different probably interesting conversations that can be had about that. Or they could have written a paper about the temperament of pit bulls and said, well, pit bulls aren't that aggressive. They could have done a number of things, but they instead of doing that, they narrowed the scope of their paper down to just the conversation that experts are having about pit bull bans in a number of different cities and regions across the United States and the world. So you can see that this paper also relied heavily on an article that you have already read, because you had already read Troublemakers, and I hope you had a great time. Oh my gosh, I feel so informed already because I've already read Malcolm Gladwell's Troublemakers. The reason that I've set this series of readings up in this way is so that you could encounter that as a reading, study it a little bit, and then you've seen how a student used Malcolm Gladwell's very excellent article about racial profiling that relies heavily on his work and the research that he did around pit bull attacks. So you've seen how this writer of the student paper, Pit Bulls, Both Sides of the Fence, took quotes from experts in that paper, or took quotes from the Malcolm Gladwell essay, and integrated them into his student paper. So you're going to be doing exactly the same thing, but you do not have to write about pit bulls. You can write about any conversation that experts are having out there. Now, you want to make sure that you narrow your topic. So this video is really designed to, one, remind you to narrow your topic, and two, to connect your reading of our sample essay with the assignment guidelines that you're going to counter later in the course, just a few clicks away. So, things that I need you to know about the student example. And one of those things is that Pit Bulls, Both Sides of the Fence is an essay that you need to read more than just once, because, as you noticed, there are a lot of annotations. Well, those annotations, each annotation is kind of a mini lesson about how to structure your paper. It's about how to use signal phrases to integrate material from other sources. And there are all kinds. There's everything. There's about evaluating sources. So really, I want you to go back and reread the sample paper, Pit Bulls, Both Sides of the Fence, and make sure that you click on every single notation, and you should see those. Those will just come up there. On my screen, they're yellow. I can never exactly tell what color things are going to be on other people's. But you'll notice that there are comments there about choice of language, MLA citation, all kinds of comments. But what I want to do with the rest of this video is to talk about how this writer structured the essay. Okay, so what our student writer did was our student writer found this conversation that people are having out there. Apparently, there are certain cities that are banning pit bulls. There are certain experts who think that that's hysterical, that's a hysterical reaction to these attacks. And there are certain experts who feel like that's the move to make. Now, what our student writer did was he started with an introduction. He wrote, "The crazed conversation surrounding pit bull bans is one that almost always starts with a reference to a toddler who has had his face torn off by a pit bull." Watts. Now, that's your MLA citation right there. The parenthetical and then the last name of an author. And please notice that if you scroll to the bottom of that essay, you'll see, bang, Watts is listed alphabetically under the Works Cited page. And you'll also be including a Works Cited page in with your essays. That's one of the things that we need to do. Now, so this student paper begins with an introduction. And then, where does it go from there? Well, the first place that this paper goes is basically a really clear summary, which we've already talked about in the class, of not the summary of Malcolm Gladwell's Troublemakers, but we've talked about writing summary. The summary that this paper offers you of Malcolm Gladwell's essay is a classic summary where he literally, the writer, goes through Troublemakers, and watch how he does this. He goes through and he basically grabs the main idea from almost every paragraph as he tells us Malcolm Gladwell's lengthy and thorough 2006 New Yorker essay entitled simply Troublemakers attempts to offer a logical perspective on the controversy surrounding pit bulls. He begins his essay by sharing about Jaden Claroux. So you've already read that, so you already know. But in my opinion, my feeling about the way the student has structured this paper is that he has found a voice that is opposed to pit bull bans, and I think that at the end of the day, the Malcolm Gladwell essay also falls somewhere against pit bull bans. What this writer of this paper does after showing us a voice that is against pit bull bans, he finds a voice that is neutral on the topic of pit bull bans, neither for or against. And actually, he finds an article by Claire Leschenhor, who writes an article called Showing Their Teeth. And that essay turns out to be a compromise solution or a voice in the middle. So that's a very interesting move. And he writes, Claire Leschenhor, let me go back to the beginning of the paragraph here. Voices a little closer to the middle of this conversation belong to the trained professionals whose job it is to make parks safe and accessible for all kinds of people, including dog lovers of every stripe. Claire Leschenhor, who wrote the essay. Now that's a signal phrase. Claire Leschenhor, who wrote the essay. And it's a signal phrase is a moment that allows you to identify the author of a source. You could identify the title of the source. You could identify the journal or the newspaper or the magazine where the source came from. And then it allows you to introduce the quote by saying, wrote. So what's great about this particular move that he makes is that he starts his paper with a voice against, finds a voice in the middle of the controversial topic or conversation. And then later, in his essay, he goes to people who are pro-bans, and he has a number of different sources that are pro-pit bull bans. And that's the kind of work that you're going to be doing as you write your own informative paper. You're going to be looking for experts who are talking about this same topic, and then you should identify them on a spectrum of agreement where, these people are for whatever it is. These people are against whatever it is. And maybe you'll find some voices in the middle. But your informative paper is going to inform an audience of readers who do not know anything about this topic, what these experts are saying about the topic you've chosen.